Movie reviews. Ford vs. Ferrari is the latest movie directed by James Mangold. Now, he's been on a huge Wolverine kick in the past couple of years, and this is his first movie directed that isn't X-Men related since 2010. This movie is based off a true story, and it stars Matt Damon as Carroll Shelby and Christian Bale as Ken Miles. Now, before I get into anything about this movie, let's start with the true story part of this, because it seems like that is where a lot of people are getting hung up on. Well, in a way, this movie does tell the true story of how Ford Motor Company created a car to race in Le Mans, which is a very intense race in the 60s, and beat out the company Ferrari, who kept winning year after year after year. However, if you search any online forum, especially Reddit, you're going to see a lot of people complaining that the details weren't always accurate in the movie. So to start there, I'm not going to be talking about any of that because really, it shouldn't affect how well the movie is. As long as you watch this movie understanding it's not a complete factual documentary telling the exact events, but more of a theatric experience, let's just agree to talk about the movie itself. However, I will say, while I went into this movie not knowing any of the actual details, it was a great experience, and I would encourage you to do the same. Watch this movie, don't learn anything about the story, the characters, because a lot of the twists and surprises are going to be more rewarding seeing it on the screen and learning it for the first time. The plot line on IMDb reads, American car designer Carroll Shelby and driver Ken Miles battle corporate interference, the laws of physics, and their own personal demons to build a revolutionary race car for Ford and challenge Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1966. When I first heard about this movie, I wasn't all that excited, just because race cars and movies, I mean, you got Ricky Bobby, but like, is that actually going to be exciting to watch on the big screen? But this movie was exhilarating and such a blast. Let's start by talking about the actors, because Matt Damon and Christian Bale, we've never seen them work together, at least in a duo co-lead roles like these. They absolutely killed it. Now, we already know that they are A-list actors and every bit worth of Oscar nominations, and it's going to be a tight race this year, folks. Honestly, it would not surprise me at all if they're both nominated for Oscars from these roles. They absolutely kill it in this movie. Matt Damon's character plays more of the businessman. He used to be a racer, but doesn't do it anymore, so he's kind of the one that oversees everything, trying to build these cars that are going to compete in this race. Christian Bale's character is kind of an oddball, an outcast. He's not a people person. People don't even like him, but he is good at what he does. He's like the Baby Driver of 1966. A lot of the emotional pull of this movie comes from their characters and how they describe racing, and honestly, it makes you want to love racing. Christian Bale's character is often describing his relationship with the car, feeling it out, feeling what it needs, what he needs to do while driving it, what parts to place in. And when you see this relationship with him and his car, it's honestly a beautiful thing. Without a doubt, I would say their acting is the highlight of this movie and what makes it so engaging as an audience member to watch. Right there up with their acting, though, is the cinematography, and it is so beautifully shot. Every shot is just so intentional. The cinematography that's being used with the cameras following the cars on the racetrack, it is so energetic. It's going to have you glued to the screen. Again, I keep saying it, but a race car movie did not interest me, but it's done in almost an action movie format, and there are action scenes within this movie with race car drivers, and you feel the rush, you feel the thrill. The movie often touches on death and the consequences that these drivers face, and so with the acting mixed with the brilliant camera work, it really draws you in, and you can feel that tension build up. Now, I will say, as a story goes and as a script, I think that's where this movie falls a little short. Now, it's not bad, it's just not amazing. Now, the movie's long. It's pushing on 2.5 hours, and while myself, I didn't really feel that length because I was engaged the entire time, but for some people, that's a really long movie for watching race cars. You're never really quite sure when the climax is, and you feel like, okay, was that the big race? Is this the big race? And it kind of just keeps going. There's a lot of elements to the story to tell, and I feel like it's difficult because, again, when you learn the true story of how it all went down, you understand, like, they really did need to kind of tell it all, but it's just a lot to cram into one movie, so you gotta take a couple points off because of that. The interesting thing about this movie, though, is it's not exactly what I thought. Now, the title being Ford versus Ferrari, and you can kind of assume that by both of them working for Ford, that Ford's going to be the protagonist, Ferrari's going to be the antagonist, and while Ferrari is the one that they eventually have to beat, Ferrari's hardly seen in this movie, and especially not as, like, the bad guy. It's actually surprising, but the antagonist is really more Ford itself, at least as a corporation. The CEO and the presidents and vice presidents, pretty much like the business side of it, they're seen as the issue that our heroes have to overcome. Let's just say it doesn't paint Ford in the most positive light, and if anything, it's kind of not the prettiest look for Ford. Big aspect of this movie is Christian Bale's character, Ken Miles. Like I said, he's the oddball. People don't really like him, but he's so good at what he does, you can't help but root for him as an audience member, and they have to let him drive because he's so good. And Ford as the corporation doesn't want that. They're trying to stop that. They want more of a poster pretty boy who can represent the Ford brand. And so a lot of movie is Christian Bale and Matt Damon having to stand up to the businessmen of Ford and say, no, let him drive the car. And then towards the end of the movie, Ferrari's just kind of there. Like, they're racing against Ferrari, yes, but you don't ever feel this tension between Ford and Ferrari. You feel the tension between Matt Damon, Christian Bale, and all of Ford. So I just thought that was interesting. It's not a bad thing, and if anything, I think it's a better thing because it makes this company feel more complex. It makes these characters feel a little bit more conflicted. Like, do they want to work for this company that they don't exactly support and that doesn't treat them the best way, or do they actually want to try to do their very best to beat Ferrari? There's a lot of tension within these conflicting emotions. So I would highly recommend this movie. It's a great watch, definitely worth your time. 2.5 hours, again, a little long, and the script definitely falls short in some aspects. And I think the biggest debate is going to be these people who are passionate about race car driving and seeing this movie and understanding that these facts are not actually what happened. If you can just accept the overall message that this movie is portraying and enjoy the ride, it's going to be a great time for you. So I'm going to give this movie an 80 out of 100. Very high score on my list. If you follow me on Letterboxd, again, you really should. It's going to be a 4 out of 5. It could make my top 10 of the year, but again, there's some good movies coming out, so we're just going to have to wait and see. Cannot wait to see what kind of Oscar buzz this movie is going to get. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Comment below, let me know what did you think of this movie, and I will see you next time.